Hey guys, I'm Cam and welcome to Reality Check. Have you ever spent money on a free-to-play game? Be honest now, a lot of people do. It's the basis of the whole free-to-play business model which powers some of the most popular games in the world. Interestingly though, there is some fascinating innate human psychology behind why smart people like you and I spend money on free games. This is part one of a special two-part reality check all about the psychology of free-to-play. In-app purchases are the cornerstone of the free-to-play business model, and resisting these takes self-control. Maybe it's the offer of extra tokens in Jetpack Joyride to unlock that awesome costume. Perhaps it's being repeatedly murdered by that champion in League of Legends who you don't currently own. Or it could be the knowledge that you're one Eagle purchase away from completing that nigh impossible Angry Birds level. Either way, resisting these temptations takes self-control, which, it turns out, is a finite but renewable resource. Much like your Magicka bar in Skyrim, or the strength in your arm when doing repeated bicep curls at the gym, eventually your self-control does run out. Some fascinating research published last year in the Journal of Consumer Psychology demonstrated this quite beautifully using functional magnetic resonance imaging of the brain. This is a common technique used in neuroscience research and creates pictures of brain activity by detecting changes in the flow of blood around the organ. Researchers at the University of Iowa noticed that the area of the brain which recognizes that a situation requires self-control, known as the anterior cingulate cortex, has no trouble repeatedly flagging up potential problematic situations. However, a different part of the brain, known as the dorsolateral prefrontal cortex, the part that actually manages self-control, can only maintain its activity for a set period of time. Essentially, its message of, I really want to do the dumb thing, but I should overcome that impulse and do the smart thing, diminishes over time. And by studying fMRI images of this part of the brain, the researchers could actually see the test subject's self-control draining away. It really kind of makes sense that this is why games which repeatedly offer you solutions at the cost of a small purchase can wear people down to eventually parting with actual cash. In fact, there is scientific evidence that this ego depletion, as it's also known, predisposes you to make impulse purchases. Case in point, a different study carried out by the University of Minnesota challenged half of the test subjects to exert self-control by trying to ignore words appearing on a screen. After that, they then tempted everyone to spend their $10 participation fee on gift shop type items like sweets and mugs. Those who had done the self-control depletion exercise both reported feeling more tempted to buy and actually spent more money than those who hadn't done the exercise. This nicely demonstrates why games which offer purchasable cheats or buffs to speed up boring gameplay tasks like grinding can be so successful in persuading people to pay. If I do something nice for you, you may feel compelled to do something nice for me in return. This is the idea of reciprocity, and it could be a major component behind the success of League of Legends and other free-to-play games. A 1971 study carried out at Cornell University, known as the Coca-Cola experiment, demonstrated the power of reciprocity quite beautifully. As often is the case with psychological studies, the test subjects were asked to take part in a sham test. However, as they were patiently passing their time in the waiting area, unbeknownst to them, they were accompanied by a researcher posing as another participant. At some point, the incognito researcher would leave the room, returning a few minutes later with 2 bottles of Coca-Cola, explaining, "Oh, the study leader said I could have one, so I got one for you too." Subsequently, at the end of the day, the insider would then attempt to persuade the test subject to purchase raffle tickets from them, explaining that the more they sold, the more money they would raise. Perhaps unsurprisingly, the people who received the free cola were far more likely to spend money on raffle tickets compared to the control group who received no free cola. Not only that, the gift receivers spent far more money than the value of the cola itself. What is surprising though is when the researchers asked the test subjects to rate how much they liked the gift giver, it turned out that this rating had no impact on how much money they actually spent, indicating that the pressure to reciprocate was the real driving force here. Now, I know a game is quite different from another person, but it's not a giant leap to imagine that the same pressure could apply, especially if you spend tens or even hundreds of hours playing the game. One of the hallmarks of a good competitive free-to-play business model is that you cannot buy items which give you an advantage over other human players. However, what you can buy in League of Legends, for example, are skins for your characters, so-called vanity items. And people do. A lot. Stupid, huh? Well, no, not really. Not if you consider the idea of conspicuous consumption. Now, this is the act of buying things, maybe rare or expensive things, that are not necessary to your life, but are bought in a way that mean other people will notice you made that purchase. The idea was first suggested by economist and sociologist Thorstein Veblen in the late 19th century to describe the new rich social class who emerged as a result of the Second Industrial Revolution. It's the same reason people buy bling or expensive shoes or something in day-to-day life. And in a multiplayer game like League of Legends, people see your champion. So if you've got a rare skin, they're going to notice. Now, this also has the potential to make others jealous, which in turn drives more sales, and so on. Finally, let's talk money. Like the vast majority of games supporting a free-to-play business model, if you want to spend money in League of Legends, you need to use their intermediate currency, Riot Points. Now, for us, the player, this presents a bit of a problem, as people find it difficult to accurately assess the value of an unfamiliar currency. Part of this issue could be down to the mere exposure effect. This is the broad psychological idea that things which we're familiar with have a higher value to us, simply because we've been exposed to them in the past. So we value our usual familiar currency higher than we would any intermediate currency in a game, simply because we're used to seeing it. This idea of the mere exposure effect being related to increased spending of unfamiliar currencies is not just relevant to the world of free-to-play games, though. In fact, it's been argued to help explain why people spend a great deal more money than they usually would when visiting foreign countries.